Hello everybody, I'm Victoria and today I'm going to be talking about a book that I think is highly underrated as well as underread. It has a cumulative 3.83 on Goodreads. As for reviews, only 1,626 people have rated it and only 427 people have reviewed it. Now, I personally really enjoyed this book, and despite it only getting a 3.83 on Goodreads, I actually gave this 5 stars. Oh yeah. And what book am I talking about? I am talking about, bam, Prince of Shadows by Rachel Caine. So again, I think that this book is very much underrated and very much underread. And I want to talk a little bit today about why I absolutely loved it so much and gave it 5 stars. Now, if you don't know, 5 stars is a very, very difficult rating to receive from me. I'm pretty sparse with my 5 stars. It really has to be something extraordinary, and I really feel like this book is. So let's get into a little bit about this book. First, I want to talk a little bit about the reservations and hesitations I had going into this book. Number one, I'm actually not a huge fan of Romeo and Juliet. I mean, I love Shakespeare. The writing obviously is amazing, but the characters themselves, their love story, I do love the end. I love the tragedy of it all. Who doesn't love a big, sad, tearful, mournful end of something? But I never really bought the love story between them. I kind of saw them as being silly teenagers, and I had some issues with that. So I didn't know how happy I would be about a Romeo and Juliet retelling, and that's what this is. The second thing I had some reservations about was Rachel Caine. Now, I have read one other book by her that was Ill Wind. That's part of the Weather Warden series, which is like a paranormal romance series with Jinn. I gave it 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was the most amazing thing I've ever read, but I did like it, and just not enough to continue on with the series. So I was a little hesitant in picking this up, knowing that this was Rachel Caine taking on the Bard himself. But let me tell you, I was not disappointed. So the first thing that I have to say I absolutely loved about this was the writing. Oh my goodness, I was not prepared for such a well-written book. What I absolutely love about this is Rachel Caine is able to create and use language that is reminiscent of Shakespearean English without actually going all the way for it, without going, "Dost thou, my lady, preferest a rose," or some such stuff. So it's great because she's able to convey kind of that old way of speaking without the pretentiousness of actually going there and using Shakespearean English. That would be super annoying, and I am so happy she didn't. But again, she also steers clear of modern English. This is definitely a little bit different. So what she uses is some of the vocabulary of the time period. We do get "cuz" used a lot throughout, and other words found in Elizabethan English. And then she also kind of shies away from using contractions and sometimes messes up word orders to give sort of that feeling of old-timey English without actually going there. So super blown away by it, impressed. In fact, there's some different quotes that she lifts from the play and puts them in here, and she again changes them ever so slightly so they seem like they belong. The modern reader can absolutely understand them. It's not like it's a foreign language, but at the same time still retaining that original Shakespearean intent. So absolutely fantastic, the writing in this. Highly recommend. The other thing that I think is wonderful about this are the characters. So we have really in-depth characters in this. This is told from a first-person perspective of Benvolio, and we get a complexly imagined character in this. He is good, as his name would suggest, Ben meaning good. Writing, yeah. Anyway, he is good, but you see that he's conflicted about different things. He wants to do good for the family, and it's just really wonderfully drawn out. Next we have Romeo, who is kind of whiny, but you know, he's whiny in the play. I never really loved him, and here he's definitely portrayed as kind of like a young, cool teenage kid with too much money and too much time on his hands, just looking for the next fight. And that definitely comes across in here, and so I really like that. The next character we have, Mercutio. Rachel Caine adds another component to his character that just really adds a layer and leads to just an amazing tragedy in this that sincerely broke my heart. I cried in the middle of this, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna spoil anything about it, but just really wonderful, and it gave new meaning to the play. Again, everything that happens in here kind of does play into the play, pun intended. But it's just really, really wonderfully done. The other character, Rosalind. I was actually kind of disappointed when I started reading this and realized that it was the first person and only first person from Benvolio. I was hoping to get Rosalind's voice in here, and we don't. But honestly, it just shows what a skilled writer Rachel Caine is, because we only see Rosalind a handful of times. Really few, but each time she masterfully is able to reveal another interesting component of Rosalind's character. And so by the end of this, despite the fact that we've only spent not many pages with her, we get the idea that she is brave, that she is strong, that she is intelligent, and most importantly, she's compassionate and kind and will put others ahead of herself. So I really, really loved what Miss Caine was able to do with that character of Rosalind, even though we don't see it very much. The other great thing in this is the insta-love. So there's kind of an insta-love. I wouldn't say exactly like other YA things. But in here, basically what happens, there is this immediate connection between the two of them. But it isn't consuming on Benvolio's part. He isn't constantly harping on it or whining about it. He continues to do what he needs to do in this book. And so you see this natural progression, again, because we do have these few meetings, but it makes sense that they would be attracted to each other more and more. And so this is insta-love or insta-attraction, definitely done right. The other thing that I really love about this are the politics. So if you're not interested about these families that basically run Verona, that are big on the political scene, if you don't care about the internal politics in there, then you're probably not going to like this book. It has a lot of that. I love it. So it was awesome to be able to see the internal machinations between these different families and what they do, and it's just wonderful. So yeah, this book is great. And the other thing that is fantastic is it saves Romeo and Juliet. It fixes the problem that I mentioned earlier about them insta-loving and just craziness. It fixes that. This fixes it, guys. Yeah. So I definitely think that this is a wonderful book. I also think that it has been mismarketed. It's sold as a YA, but I definitely feel like it has much broader appeal. I definitely feel like the quality of writing is just amazing, and like I said, what she's done with the characters and how she's kind of turned the Shakespearean tragedy on its ear. I really, really enjoyed this a lot. I definitely feel like people that don't normally read YA would absolutely love this. I think if you like Romeo and Juliet, read this. I think if you don't like Romeo and Juliet, read this. I just definitely think that this is something that a lot of people kind of gloss over, perhaps haven't heard about, but they really should. Again, especially if you are the biggest fan of YA, I think that you would still enjoy this a lot. So thanks everybody, and this has been my review of Prince of Shadows. Please read it. It's underread and underrated. Bye!